Hey guys, it's for real, and today we'll be looking at the mouse. Now, the mouse is the super heavy tier 10 original German heavy tank, and today I'll be showing you 3 replays in order to best represent how you should play the mouse. Now, let's get straight into the battle itself. So, this is a tier 10, tier 9 matchup, and I want to push the tempo. And I heard that the 780 fired, at least I believe it fired, and that's why I don't angle my armor towards him. I'm keeping my frontal armor towards the enemies where the E100 and the phase are. So not a great start, but however, I know I have a DPM on the 780, so I'm going to use that to give one shot into him. Now, this replay on Fisherman's Bay is going to be to show you how to angle your armor and use opportunities, basically. And you're going to see me trying to be a team player. I just realized that Progetto 65 is getting wrecked. That's why I'm angling my armor. And I'm going to show you 3 replays. One's on the Fisherman's, one's on not Ensk, my bad. It's on Erlenberg, and the third one's on Murovanka. And all of them are brawling, but the second one's going to be a really intense one, and the third one's going to be just an insane one-man army. So basically what I'm doing here is angling my armor in such a manner. This is actually side scraping 101 with the mouse, because as we all know, the mouse has really weak side cheeks, and exposing them to any tier 9 or tier 10 who are firing gold is going to be an insta-pen. So what I'm doing is holding my armor in such an angle until I'm really close to firing, about 2 seconds. And since the turret takes a really long time to turn, I usually give it about 2 seconds before I start turning my turret, so I can shoot on that same instant, so I minimize the exposure of the side cheeks to the opponent. And this is basically how you play the mouse. Even like, eventually they are gonna pen you. The thing is, there's so many tanks you need to angle. Eventually, some lower plate will be exposed to the phase. But what you're gonna see is that I actually use the lower plate as a baiting characteristic, basically, because everybody knows that the mouse's lower plate is pennable. But the thing is, it's actually such a small area that if you angle it properly, it's not that easy to hit, at least for a majority of the people. And this scenario where I go versus 3 tanks from different angles is going to be a perfect example of how to angle the mouse versus many opponents. So now I'm angling against the phase. The phase obviously, well, it's not obviously, but it's gonna really have a hard time to hit the lower plate, as I said. And that gives me a chance to proceed. I'm trying to bait here Rino Cheronte to expose himself so I can kill him off, so I eliminate one angle, but that's not happening. So I just try to focus out the phase as much as possible if you ever try to focus me out. And you can see I'm angling both at the phase, at the Rino Cheronte, but I'm also angling at the Progetto to some degree, and that gives me like ample opportunity to take block, because by the time I marked this tank, actually I had like 4k average blocked, which just shows how armor efficiency this tank can be if angled properly. Of course, you need to be lucky as well to have such a high damage blocked, but like even in worst case scenarios, I would have at least have 3k average blocked. Just explaining, if you do well, how powerful the mouse can be. I would argue that the mouse is like actually extremely powerful and underrated, because if its armor efficiency can be outstanding, and it's just an HP pool. As you can see, I'm at 3.3k HP, and that's not even with full field mods. The full field mods, I believe you almost reach 3.5k, and the thing is, I don't know, because I managed to mark this tank before I even researched all the field mods. So anyways, as you can see, 6.3k damage and 3.3 block is amazing. And now you may be wondering why I peaked in such a way and giving him a broadside. But the thing is, I did not give him my complete broadside. As you can see, I was still at an angle. And if you guys didn't know, that the side of the mouse actually has a lot of track. And if you fire heat and if you don't hit the the upper part, like the really upper part of the tracks, you're gonna bounce it. And I know that Rino Cheronte has been firing heat for a couple of shots now, so I knew this was a calculated risk, and that's why I managed to bait him successfully. And I also had enough HP to tank the shot from at least Rino Cheronte and the AMX, who was actually penned me on my side because he was using AP. So anyways, That's pretty much a great brawl, textbook gameplay from a mouse on Fisherman's Bay with 7k damage. I'm gonna wrap this battle real quick, and it's gonna end up being an 8k damage game. And one thing I would like to actually really point out is not to be afraid to use the HP on my mouse. You literally have so much HP that trading 1-for-1 is almost in your favor. Usually I would say in many tanks a 1-for-1 trade is not what you want unless you're a 750 alpha and they're a 390 alpha. It's all circumstantial, but as a main textbook rule, I would say never trade 1-for-1. But here you have ample opportunity to do that, honestly, and that's what I think separates a lot of mouse players. Like, don't be afraid to push in and give a tempo. Now let's move on to the next battle, and this one's on Erlenberg. And this one's going to just show you I'm in a bit of an uncomfortable situation. Actually, I'm going to put myself in an uncomfortable situation. However, you're going to see how I pull through. Anyways, we're going to start here with 600 damage, which is quite beautiful. And there's this one shot I'm going to put into a T-54 LT, which I wanted to showcase because it shows you that the tank is so high, so big, but there are actually angles which other tanks could not be able to find. So that's one other thing I wanted to point out. Use the tank's sometimes size is actually a really big advantage to the tank itself, just as I showed here. Now what I'm going to do here is the classical cross the road, and I didn't do that initially because this is not like a 260 or Chieftain where you can cross immediately, and as you can see I get punished accordingly. And so I had to actually really calculate my crossing precisely, because I did this one last time and I actually came here across with only 1k HP, and I got lucky that the T-30 bounced me, which is great. And unfortunately it's not going to bounce me a second time, and it takes out my engine. Now I'm actually going to make a mistake here, and the mistake being that I don't fix my engine, and that is because I was really afraid of being ammo racked. However, I forgot this is not a bloody Chieftain or a 279E, so I should have done that, honestly. And my rotation and movements are actually gonna punish me with additional HP, because I'm trying to be really cautious, and sometimes you have to be cautious, but in this case this was overly cautious. Now anyways, I always want you to pay attention how I use my armor. I'm turning my turret on the right side now, but he's penning me with gold, and I decided that I actually had to fix the engine so I can move and rotate and use my armor angle much more efficiently. And I just saw the Kranvang fired all of his shots. We take out the AMX with a Kupolsha, brilliant. I'm trying through a hole to take out the Kron, which is a big threat. However, that does not seem to happen, and I just decide to push. Now this is gonna be a mistake. What's a mistake? Basically, no, actually it's not a mistake. I just got unlucky. So what I decided to do is kill off the TNH and go in a 1v1 with a Kron. However, that does not happen because I mega low roll. And what I do, this is a mistake. I try to third person shoot and it doesn't work out. And I'm reverse side scraping, basically. And in the end, he's actually going to pen me through the cheeks, not through the back, because the back of the mouse is actually also really hard to pen unless you aim right at the center. So you can actually even reverse side scraping this thing, which is fantastic. So anyways, like in any other tank, I would have basically died. But you see, I just have so much HP that it doesn't really matter. Like I still have 806 to go. And yeah, like look at my angling now. This is like exactly how you should angle in the mouse, basically. Perfect. And yeah, thanks to that I can kill the T-30 off. Actually he gets taken down, and you know, tier 10s can pen, but if you angle properly, you're still gonna have a really hard time, especially if you always do micro adjustments, micro moves back and forth, left and right. But you're gonna confuse them. And I didn't mention this, but if you're asking what equipment I used, it's gonna be the HP, it's gonna be the turbo, and it's going to be the rammer. And from here on, honestly, it's just a farming fiesta, except for the VK who puts me on a one-shot, which actually puts me in an uncomfortable situation. But the AT-15, the tier 8s, like frontally, they'll do basically nothing to me. And you can see I'm not even worried about the AT-15. I know he's just going to be 2 additional shots of free damage, and I'm going to use it to the fullest, honestly. And yeah, this is pretty much what I wanted to show you on Erlenberg. I was in quite a tricky situation. However, I just pulled through because I had so much HP to trade with, and like I still blocked 5.2k. It's not like I didn't angle or anything. So definitely you can take risk with a mouse as long as you armor efficiently towards your opponents. It's definitely a breakthrough heavy tank, and I'd argue it's even better than the 279E in certain situations, because the 279E, yeah, it has no lower plate and everything, but it doesn't have nearly the same amount of HP, and honestly, people have learned how to pen the 279E with its weak spots, on the shoulders and in the cupola, and honestly, I have way more bounce damage with the mouse than the 279E, probably because people underestimate the mouse, which is an additional feature of it, because everybody thinks the mouse is pretty bad, but that's not true. That's not at all true, and it just proves you, like, in these two replays. I mean, even if you saw my DPG, which I posted on a couple of days ago, I have 4.6k DPG on this tank, and it's my highest DPG. It's higher than the Chief and it's higher than the 279. That being said, I did get those two tanks a while back. However, I would say that I had a much easier time, doing damage with this tank, just because it has so much HP. I'm going to emphasize, the three main things you need to know is HP, angling, and read the situation actually perfectly. And this is another match where I just push the tempo in the open. And what I see is potential damage to be done here. Look, I'm gonna angle my armor. But TNH cannot pen me. The IS-7 is gonna have a hard time. IS-7 is actually gonna have an easy time, but the WZ is gonna have a hard time. The FV, I'm not afraid of the FV, and I don't want to waste my repair kit on him, because he only can do a maximum of 400 as he just did. And now what I'm planning is to get behind this hill and start farming. And I'm always gonna emphasize, keep the angling like this towards the enemies, and when you're like 2 seconds close to reloading, turn, shoot, and return to the defensive angling position to minimize exposure. Now here you'll be wondering, why don't I angle my armor towards the left side of this hill? And that's because I'm using the lower plate to bait the enemies, to keep themselves exposed for me. Now, don't take me wrong, the IS-7 is just a bad player. He's just constantly exposing himself and not going pull down. But it just comes to show, how you should bait your opponents. Mouse is basically a bait tank. Now, this T95 is going to YOLO me, and then I'm going to show you I wanted to show you one more beautiful feature of a mouse, and that is that it's so tall that it's going to actually be in my favor. So I'm going to basically shove my big track into his gun, so he cannot shoot his, so he cannot shoot my lower plate, which is fantastic. The mouse is not lower plate, but the tracks are so thick that it can cover a substantial amount of your tank, and that's one beautiful thing. And many other tanks by now would be either like a 2-shot, maybe even 1-shot, and that's not the case at all. Actually, most tanks would be dead, because I even blocked 6k damage out of this. That's just like I'd really consider the mouse pretty much almost broken, honestly. Or I just got lucky, but I think this mouse is just completely broken. And just out of that engagement, most of the tanks would be dead. I think the 279E would be cleanly dead by now. Like let's be real. And yeah, I'm at 1k still HP, which is like plenty enough to trade. And this is me just having a little bit of Parkinson, my bad. Yeah, honestly, like I would be already dead. Here I'm still standing, still trading. And one more mini play that shows you the height of a mouse can get you additional damage where other tanks couldn't. And yeah, I'm at 5k, 6.3k blocked. Easy. Like, I legit tell you, I did like, in the 70 battles that I did, that I played in a mouse, I did like 20 times the HT15. I'm not even kidding you guys. Like, it's ridiculous. Now, don't take me wrong, there were battles where like I was so slow, and my battles were so one-sided that I couldn't have time to, do enough damage, because I was running through the entire time. So yeah, those were some of the unfortunate battles. I just slow motion this one just to show you how ridiculous the missed shot was. It's not a big deal, but like server reticle was really, well, it was really off target there. But okay. And I'm gonna wrap this replay up by showing you guys a beautiful execution of the FE with 2 HE shells. And I think this is the icing on the cake probably. And I hope you kind of understood. Maybe my explanations weren't as clear as I hoped they would be, but I really wanted to emphasize the points of angling, minimal exposure until reloaded, so you can shoot, like, and then return your armor, so you're re-angling, and being aware of where the HP is, and don't be afraid of pushing the tempo in trading.